The story begins with Prince Felix informing Lady Ophelia that their engagement ended today and that he would be marrying Alicia. Ophelia watched her fiancé looking at Alicia with loving eyes and was devastated. She fell to her knees and began wondering for a long time if she should retrace her steps. The engagement between her, the daughter of a duke, and Felix, the crown prince, was arranged by their parents. Despite it being a political marriage, the two of them got along very well with each other and were blissfully in love. That is, up until they turned 16 and entered the academy. There was an honor student of humble birth named Alicia. After she came, whenever Ophelia asked Felix to hang out or escort her somewhere, he found excuses and started distancing himself from her. Even when she wanted to be the first to celebrate his own birthday with him, he told her she didn't need to go out of her way like that. She was about to explain how she would be more than happy to do that, but Alicia's voice was heard, calling for her fiancé. Seeing them laughing around like that, Ophelia felt heavy. She was spiteful to her on the spur of the moment, and it only made her feel better for a fleeting moment. Meanwhile, she gradually grew closer to Prince Felix. And at the party, Felix didn't accompany Ophelia and danced with Alicia instead. Everyone saw him disrespecting Ophelia. Alicia was wearing a dress given by Prince Felix that perfectly matched his attire. The emotions stirring in Ophelia as she looked on, and her sheer misery, were completely foreign to her and beyond her wildest imagination. Watching this, the protagonist couldn't help but cry her eyes out. She couldn't stop crying over how her fiancé callously gave her the cold shoulder. That was a bit rich coming from her when she was going after Felix, though. Even so, she couldn't believe the crown prince would pursue another girl when he already had a fiancé. For Ophelia to be betrayed and condemned by the person she had always loved made her heart ache. She may be the villainess in this otome game, but she wanted her to be saved. She wished to make that happen as the player character. For that purpose, she decided to contact the developers. She knew she was probably making a nuisance of herself, but she couldn't help herself. She had to put her money where her mouth was. She asked the developers to create a villainous route. Back in the game, Ophelia's maid Karen helped her get ready for the day and commented on how beautiful she looked. Ophelia said she was saying such things so brazenly, but Karen defended that it was the truth. She was sure Ophelia would be the center of attention at the entrance ceremony. Ophelia braced herself for the gears of fate being set in motion on this very day. She recalled 9 years ago when her engagement with Crown Prince Felix had been fixed. She was so surprised that her father couldn't help but ask what was wrong. Her mother said she was just a 7-year-old and he would only confuse her with that kind of talk. But Ophelia's head started to hurt and she lost consciousness. She saw the protagonist playing the game while being unconscious. It was her memories from a past life flooding back to her. She was a Japanese citizen who was really into this game called the otome game Frisia. As alluded to in the title, the Frisia flower was its motif, and the heroine receives divine protection from the goddess of Frisia and awakens the powers of a shrine maiden. It was a romance game set in a fantasy land where she protected the world from the villainous butterflies of the moonless night. She spends 3 years at the academy and attains her happy ending up getting together with a capture target at the graduation ceremony. And she was one of the supporting characters in there. The villainess, Ophelia Leroulac. She never dreamed she would reincarnate as the villainess, but she was glad to be in the position of Prince Felix's fiancé. She had done all that she could in preparation for this day, and now, destiny had dawned. The game had begun. The entrance ceremony was making her terribly nervous. As Karen poured her morning tea, she commented on how surprising it was for her to get butterflies in her stomach sometimes. But it wasn't a surprise for Ophelia as her fate rested on the heroine's choice of route. In this game, you can reach a happy ending or a bad ending with your chosen capture target. Additionally, there was a friendship ending and a harem ending. It sure would be convenient for her if the heroine were to get together with a character besides Prince Felix. She wished to tie the knot with him, but if he were to be charmed away from her, a life in confinement or exile would await. She thought she would find banishment more agreeable than being locked up. She was a commoner in her previous life, so she was confident that she would have no trouble leading a normal life. But she decided not to get all melancholic as this wasn't set in stone yet. If she goes down the friendship route, things should proceed rather uneventfully. That just leaves them with the harem route, which seemed quite implausible considering the monogamous society they lived in. Plus, she believed the heroine would be virtuous. She may have reincarnated as a villainess, but she wished to attain happiness. When she recalled her previous life and discovered her fate, she was racked with anxiety and it was too much for her small body to handle. At that time, although they had only just gotten engaged, he would visit her every day and bring her crimson freesias. He was kind and gently assuaged her uncertainties. Prince Felix was a character she really liked when she played the game, but her sentiments towards him were a little different now. She loved him from the bottom of her heart. She studied diligently so as to become a queen worthy of him. She also put a ton of effort into making herself look pretty, way more than she ever did in her precious life, all for a shot at happiness with him. Her motto was, "She may be a villainess, but she still has the right to obtain happiness." She wondered what move the heroine would make and hoped they could get along while sipping her tea. It was about time for the entrance ceremony, so she stood up. All the characters, including the heroine and her, would be gathered at the academy. Today, her fate was going to be determined. Before she left, Karen complimented her on how beautiful she looked. So beautiful from the back as well. She kindly thanked her and left the mansion. She felt ready for the entrance ceremony. When she arrived at the auditorium, she saw everyone exude grace and poise as expected of a prestigious school attended by nobles and talented commoners. When she entered, Prince Felix called for her and asked her to sit next to him. She kindly thanked him and sat. But on the inside, she was freaking out. He was in uniform and it had the same appearance she had seen countless times on the cover. He looked far better in the flesh than on screen. She just hoped that he couldn't hear her heart pounding. Felix said he was thinking of picking her up from her dormitory, but guys were prohibited from entering the premises, and waiting for her at the gate would have been too conspicuous. She said it would be too troublesome for him to escort her even while they were at school, and reassured him that she would be fine. He said it felt somewhat lonely to be told that. It was almost as if he had sprouted doggy ears. Prince Felix was a wonderful fiancé who deeply cherished her. He was kind and dignified with a strong sense of justice. He also had a strong sense of responsibility as a member of the royal family. Even if the heroine were to catch his fancy, she wondered if he would still choose to call off their engagement. The reason that happened was that the game's Ophelia bullied the heroine, so she decided to do her best to build a harmonious relationship with her. Felix noticed her face was all scrunched up and asked what the matter was. She said it was nothing, and noticed that he was staring at her. He then asked if it could be because she was nervous about the entrance ceremony. While she was saying he was right, she was thinking how his gentle eyes were going to grow cold and wondered if she would be able to bear it when the time came. Just the thought of it made her chest ache. The ceremony was about to start and Alicia showed up asking if she could sit beside her. Ophelia kindly allowed her to sit and she thanked her. She said all the other seats were taken, so she was in a pickle. Ophelia didn't expect to bump into her this early, but took this as a chance to befriend her. Alicia was faster than her and she offered her hand while introducing herself. Ophelia shook her hand and she recalled the portrait she saw on the cover. Alicia was the heroine of this otome game. Although she was just a commoner, she was granted admission into the academy as an honor student since she possesses light magic. Just going by her cheerful smile alone, it was evident that she had the light attribute. Around the middle of the game, she receives the blessings of a shrine maiden of Frisia, and also becomes able to wield holy magic. Prince Felix noticed Ophelia having a great time and asked her to introduce him as well. Ophelia kindly introduced Alicia to him. Alicia seemed pretty excited. Felix confirmed to her that he was indeed the crown prince, but here at the academy he was a student like everyone else, so she may speak to him freely. Ophelia loved the way he didn't put on airs. Alicia suddenly complimented her on how gorgeous Ophelia's long hair was and said that since hers was short, she really admired hers. Ophelia wasn't expecting heroine to praise the villainess. She started wondering if she might be a good girl. Ophelia thanked her and said her hair was just as lovely. Alicia's cheeks went red and she thanked her. Things were going far more smoothly than she expected, so she thought she might be worrying too much. Suddenly Alicia apologized and said it had rolled by her feet. Ophelia noticed the pen in front of her feet and gave it back. The pen was very feminine. Alicia thanked her, but then her face seemed upset. She said it was very unkind of her and this pen was once one of her favorites. Confused, Ophelia looked at the pen and saw that it was broken. She was shocked because it was in excellent condition just a moment ago. There was no way it could break because she didn't even touch the part that broke. Given the situation, it was more likely that it broke when it fell, but Alicia still believed she did it. She decided to grit her teeth and bear with it, and said it must have snapped when it bounced on the ground. Suddenly, Felix offered his pen to Alicia, saying it must be inconvenient with a broken pen, and she should take his pen. Alicia was thrilled and thanked him. She said she was going to treasure it for the rest of her life. Ophelia was shocked because rather than having borrowed something, it was an acknowledgement of having received it. She sure had the nerve to do that. The ceremony began, so she had to stay silent. Ophelia wished to be happy moving forward, but it looked like a thorny path ahead of her. It was like this, ridden with such anxieties, that her life at the academy began. In the next scene, Alicia, Ophelia, and Felix were going to their classes. The first day of school had been pretty peaceful for Ophelia. When they entered the class, Alicia was so excited to see it. She complimented how lovely the windows and desks and lace curtains were. She couldn't believe she was actually a student here as a commoner. She then noticed that she had gotten carried away and apologized to them. She explained that her family wasn't particularly well off, so never in her wildest dreams did she imagine that she would be able to enroll at this academy. Ophelia giggled and told her not to be worried because she was delighted to be here as well. This was the main setting of the game she once played, so she could hardly contain her excitement. While it was true that she was happy that she had been admitted, she was even more thrilled to be physically standing here inside the very scene she once saw on a screen. As a huge fan of the game, she was in heaven. It seemed like they were free to choose their seats, so she wanted to sit by the windows. Without thinking, Felix immediately chose the seat right next to Ophelia, which made her relieved. She said she was looking forward to spending time with him at the academy. Felix agreed with her and said that with her by his side, he was sure that campus life would be most enjoyable. Unexpectedly, Alicia decided to sit right next to Felix and said she would be in his care. That gave Ophelia quite a shock. She wondered if the heroine had set her sights on Prince Felix. She kept trying to strike up a conversation with him the whole way to class, and she wedged herself between them at every chance she got. Ophelia comforted herself thinking that she hadn't met any of the other capture targets yet, so it might just be that Prince Felix was the only viable option at the moment. Just then, someone greeted Prince Felix and said he was looking forward to their next 3 years at the academy together. He was Klaus Delacour. He greeted Ophelia too. He was one of the capture targets in Frisia. He was in the same year as them. He hailed from a ducal family and his father was the prime minister. Klaus was incredibly cool, garnering him a large fan base. Also, he wields water magic and was extremely well versed in defensive systems. It never really occurred to her on the many occasions she greeted him at soiree, but he really did cut a good figure in uniform. Klaus noticed Alicia and asked who she was. She introduced herself and said she enrolled here as an honor student and it was a pleasure. Klaus heard that she was a talented individual with the ability to use light magic, and stated that he was looking forward to bringing this kingdom to greater heights with her. Ophelia wasn't expecting him to be informed about the honor student, but it was expected of the son of the prime minister. Aside from royalty, Class A was made up of the brightest students. Also, the amount of money donated to the school by one's family was then into account. In other words, it was a class full of the rich and academically talented. As an honor student, Lady Alicia was probably exempt from tuition fees. Due to the advent of the game, this year would see an assembly of particularly outstanding individuals. It looked like she would have a challenging school year ahead of her. Klaus excused himself after telling Felix not to hesitate to call him if he needed anything. There were still 2 more capture targets who had yet to make an appearance. Both were upperclassmen, but they were students here at the same time, so everyone would come together sooner or later. Suddenly, Alicia asked Prince Felix to have lunch together so that she could thank him for the pen he gave her at the auditorium. Looking like a predator eyeing its prey, she said she brought him a lunchbox that she woke up early to prepare. She knew full well that she was Prince Felix's fiancée, yet she dared to ask him out to lunch right in front of her. In the game, Ophelia must have been at a loss for what to do. It must have been so painful for her to watch quietly from the sidelines as the 2 of them hit it up, but to her surprise, Felix said he already had plans. Ophelia was certain that he would accept, but she then remembered that he shared a lunchbox with Ophelia, but she didn't recall them making any plans for lunch. The class began, so they stopped talking. When it was lunchtime, Felix asked Ophelia for a moment and they started walking. It was almost noon, so they must be going for lunch. She tried to remember the details from the game so that she wouldn't make any mistakes. Seeing the spot Felix picked for them, she remembered that it was the backdrop for the event where the heroine gets bullied by the villainess on the first day of school. The heroine finds the 2 of them having lunch together and decides to join them. Upon laying eyes on the heroine's lunchbox, Ophelia commented on how unpalatable it was. Even if she was mistaken, Ophelia was now sure that she was not going to say those words. However, she suddenly remembered that she meant to play that role, but she didn't bring along a lunchbox that was crucial to that scene. To her surprise, her fiancé got up early today and tried his hand at making a lunchbox for the very first time. Ophelia was shocked. He said he was embarrassed to say that it didn't really look all that appetizing, but he could assure her that it tasted good because he had some help from the head chef. Ophelia smiled at her and said it didn't matter because she was beyond happy just knowing that it was homemade. Ophelia felt so warm that he tried his best at something he wasn't good at since he wanted to make her happy. She really appreciates the sweet gesture. Felix put his handkerchief and they sat together at the bank. Ophelia was excited to taste what he made. Before they could even taste the food, Alicia barged there, acting like she caught them. She said she made it just as they were about to tuck in. Felix and Ophelia didn't expect her to sit next to them without asking. Ophelia was shocked because she suddenly barged in and plopped herself down on the bench. She was being a bit too aggressive. Granted, when she played the game in her past life, she did go with more heavy-handed options. Still, that was because she was making choices in a game. That aside, she had a lunchbox in hand. That means the event had begun. Chapter 3. Ophelia watched the scene where Ophelia was bullying Alicia, saying there was no way Felix could possibly eat something prepared by a girl he had only just met today, and it would be terrible if there was poison in it. Countless times in the game, the heroine holding back her tears and Prince Felix rushed to comfort her. This was the scene that established Ophelia As the villainess, Ophelia couldn't believe she had forgotten such an important scene. According to the game, she should be antagonizing the heroine now. But if she was going to treat her kindly, she believed they could get along. This was her chance at a peaceful life. She just smiled at her and said she saw that she had packed lunch to have outdoors as well, and it was perfect for days like this when the weather was fine. Alicia agreed and looked at the lunchbox in their hand. She then said that she could be bad at cooking despite being a girl and all. Ophelia and Felix were shocked. Alicia said the bread and salad were fine since all she needed to do was procure them, but the rolled omelet looked like an attempt by an amateur. She said her omelets turned out the same way when she first started out too. She threw that remark out, thinking Ophelia was the one who made the lunchbox. If that were true, she would have simply put up with it. But it was Prince Felix getting slighted, and that was the line for Ophelia. She told Alicia that she didn't mince her words and asked if she really intended to have Prince Felix eat that. Prince Felix was the crown prince, and she said there was no way he could eat something prepared by a girl he had only met today. And she added that it would be terrible if there was poison in it. Ophelia wanted to lead a life of tranquil days, but she couldn't just sit by and watch Felix get hurt. Alicia was trembling. After being told off like that, Ophelia wondered if she was seething with anger or was about to cry. But it was none of that. She looked at Ophelia for a moment and smiled. After that moment of a smile, Alicia said it was unkind of her, and she could never do that. Those were the heroine's lines, exactly as she remembered them. In the game, Ophelia was just plain mean, but that wasn't the case for her. She didn't wish Prince Felix to get hurt. She said that Prince Felix paid particular attention not to the nutritional value of the meal when selecting ingredients. Also, only the best ingredients of the finest quality were used. She said a commoner like Alicia wouldn't be able to appreciate the beauty of this lunchbox while taking a bite. She said it was simply delectable. The soft-boiled eggs were organically produced and lightly seasoned, and even though she had no gastronome, she could tell that they tasted divine. Above all, she added that it was made with love. Alicia apologized for misspelling. Ophelia said she could be awfully candid, and if she was going to speak with no filter, she would rather her just keep her distance, and she was looking forward to spending more quality time with Prince Felix too. Ophelia didn't mean to ruin the mood and was ashamed of herself for uttering lines befitting a villainess. If her memory served her well, this was the part where Prince Felix consoles the heroine. But with the way things were going, she believed that wouldn't happen. However, Felix put his hand on her shoulder and told her not to cry. He said he was sure Ophelia didn't mean any offense either. Ophelia couldn't believe things were following the game's course. Between the heroine who was on the verge of tears and the villainous noble lady, it was obvious to whom he would reach out. If all goes according to the script, Prince Felix wouldn't get to sample the heroine's lunchbox due to Ophelia's interference, but the dessert she offered him, his favorite lemon jelly, would catch his eye. Just as she thought, Alicia mentioned that she prepared lemon jelly, his favorite. She was totally snubbing her. According to the game, Felix said he didn't dislike lemon jelly, but Prince Felix said it was his favorite. Both Alicia and Ophelia reacted exactly the same after this response. Alicia then acted like she was relieved, but Ophelia already noticed a flicker of surprise crossing her face. She then started questioning if it could be that the heroine was also someone who had reincarnated into this world. In that case, everything that happened up till now made perfect sense. If they were to confide in each other, then they could work together. But she worried she might declare her intent to pursue Prince Felix. Prince Felix was her favorite character from way back. And then, when she was reincarnated into this world and got to meet him in the flesh, she was over the moon and purely adored him as a fan. But as he showered her with kindness, the depth of which had never been unveiled in the game, she gradually fell in love with him. She remembers vividly the scene where he abandoned Ophelia for the heroine. It was so agonizing that she didn't want the heroine to win him over. She never imagined that facing the facts would be this terrifying. It must be because she feared her beloved being taken away from her. But Prince Felix surprised her and said he was hoping to enjoy it with Ophelia and gave it to her, saying the head chef made it. Ophelia froze for a moment, so he had to ask if she didn't like it. She said she likes it and recalls eating it together all the time. That was because she already knew his favorite food from the game. Since he brought some along for himself, Alicia had to eat what she prepared herself. She really wouldn't let up. In the end, Ophelia hesitated and inadvertently left the question of the heroine's reincarnation up in the air. She was aware that confronting her directly would be the most efficient way to go about it, but if her suspicions were confirmed, then she would have very well driven herself to a dead end, so she couldn't bring herself to ask. Supposing that was the case, the one place she could look for hints would be the flower beds tucked away behind the school. She started looking around to see if any flowers were in full bloom. The back of the school building was an important spot in the world of Frisia, for it was there that an abundance of Frisias could be found. The flowers blooming in the garden were an indicator of the capture target's affections for the heroine, and they were beginning to bloom. Felix's signature freesia color was red, and Liam Freesia's color was white. He was a priest heralded as the son of God. He was wholly indifferent towards everything under the sun. However, he was the game's most popular character due to his transcendent beauty and the sweet smile he graces out with once you have broken down his walls. The flowers' colors correspond to the respective capture targets, and the greater the number of flowers that have bloomed in a capture target's color, the higher its favorability towards the heroine. Yellow flowers were for Alvin Cresswell, the third son of a family of knights, and the purple ones were for Klaus. Thus far, only one had bloomed, and it was red, Prince Felix's color. Ophelia realized that the heroine, having made lemon jelly just for him, caused his level of affection to rise. It must have bloomed since she conveyed her feelings honestly. On top of that, there were more blossoms peeping out. She wondered how she could steer the heroine towards the other capture targets. If that works out, they would both get happy endings. She then thought about Prince Felix falling for her, but she ended up choosing someone else. Speaking from experience, she knew the devastating pain of heartbreak all too well, and it was precisely because she loved him so that she could only pray that he give up on his unrequited love. Ophelia was feeling really sorry, but if it comes to that, she will embrace him warmly and do her best to support him with the full might of the ducal house. She heard some rustling coming from the bushes, and it was Liam. He was surprised to see someone here. Liam Freesia was the most popular character in the game Freesia. He served as a priest despite being a student and was lauded for his ethereal beauty. A highly esteemed son of God, he possesses an affinity for wind magic and excels at healing magic. He may have a dispassionate disposition, but he had a tragic backstory and gets extremely possessive over the heroine after she won him over. Moreover, the elusive smile he reveals on his route has captured the hearts of countless female fans. Prince Felix was by far her favorite, but she must admit that he was cool. He looked like a masterpiece and he wasn't even trying. Ophelia asked him to excuse her deplorable manners and said she was just walking around campus to familiarize herself with the new surroundings. Liam introduced himself and apologized for disturbing her. Ophelia smiled politely and said she appreciated his concern. She asked what brought him here, but he had already lost interest and returned to his book. He didn't seem all too keen on making conversation. Suddenly, Ophelia remembered what was going on. This was the event where the heroine and Lord Liam first met. Just as she thought, she heard Alicia's footsteps and she entered the garden. Ophelia hid herself because it wouldn't be boded well if she were to bump into her right now. The event should start any moment now. If only Lady Alicia had gone for Liam from the get-go. Liam noticed Alicia and was surprised that he was running into one person after another here today. She recognized him and asked if he was Lord Liam. He was surprised that she knew who he was. She said she doubted there was anyone who didn't know him. She introduced herself. Liam asked if she had come to water the freesia. She said she did and she simply adores them. She would like to take care of them from now on if that was alright with him. That was how their conversation went. Liam said it was fine by him and Alicia thanked him. He said she didn't need his permission. Since his last name was Freesia, she asked if he also happened to like the freesia flower, but Liam said he didn't care for flowers. He said most men weren't interested in flowers. Ophelia noticed that Liam had completely lost interest in her. The atmosphere was surely tense. It never occurred to her when she was playing the game, but handsome men sure could be intimidating when they fell silent. Alicia asked if he didn't think freesias were special. She stated that when she looked at this flower, she got the sense that the goddess of Freesia was right by her side. When she finished her sentence, the flower just swayed and surprised Liam. Liam could have sworn it swayed just now despite there being no wind. He started wondering who this Alicia was. Alicia said she was going to come down here often to tend to the freesias and wanted to chat again sometime. Liam responded that he doubted they would have much to talk about, but then they noticed the flower blooming. Liam kneeled and started looking at the flower. He had read about all kinds of miracles in books, but this was the first time he had ever seen a flower bloom before his eyes. Alicia said it was her first time too, and she was very amazed. It was a pristine shade of white, the same color as his beautiful hair. White was the color of the freesias tied to Liam's level of affection. He had been said to be difficult to capture, what with his impassive nature, yet he had already started to open his heart to Lady Alicia. She got past his defenses way faster than she thought she would. After that moment, Liam excused himself. A flower of his color may have just bloomed, but he was still as inscrutable as ever. Even in the game, he took the longest time to open up. But she would swoon over his drastic change in attitude after she had successfully romanced him. So it was well worth the effort. He noticed that no one was here and figured Alicia had left right after Liam. She never imagined that a white freesia would blossom so soon. She thought about continuing to anticipate future developments, but it might be better if she simply didn't interfere. First things first, she decided to head back to the dormitory but bumped into Liam. She had no idea Liam was still here. He called her the eavesdropper. He knew she was watching the whole time. She must apologize in earnest, so she bowed and said she was simply curious. Liam asked what she was curious about. Ophelia was surprised because she was sure he would give her the same response that he did to Alicia, but he wanted to know what she was curious about. She definitely couldn't say that she was dying to know how things were going between the two of them. She said she was curious as to the color of the freesias in bloom here. This was excruciating for her. She made up this excuse on a whim, but it should be believable enough. Liam recalled her staring at that one freesia a while back. As far as colors were concerned, it was neither here nor there to him, but almost all the flowers here were buds, so it should have taken at least a couple more days to bloom. Yet he noticed that she spoke as if she knew they were going to bloom soon. Ophelia didn't expect him to be this clever. The freesias tucked away in the flower beds behind the school building flourish in tandem with the capture target's level of affection. By all rights, it's unnatural for what was just a bud a moment ago to suddenly be in full bloom. However, this was the world of freesia, so anything was possible as long as the corresponding affection levels rose. She repeated what he said to her in her head. Liam told her that it clearly didn't look like it was about to bloom, so it was inconceivable that she could have predicted it. She could tell because this was the world of a game she once played, but no one would believe her. Besides, no one would be happy to learn that they were just a character in a game. Ophelia said she heard that there were flower beds here, so she was curious as to what flowers she might find. She never thought it would blossom either, so she was just as surprised as he was. Besides, she said only the goddess of Frisia would know the exact moment when a flower would bloom. Liam thought about it for a moment and it made sense to him. After that, he turned his back and walked away. Ophelia wasn't sure if he was convinced because he might just have lost interest, but she was sure about one thing, and that was how sharp Liam was. Her blood ran cold for one terrible moment there. Ophelia returned to her dormitory and was relieved that the opening event was finally over. She was deadbeat. Just as expected, the main story had begun. Speaking of which, the heroine was a real piece of work. She was afraid that getting along with her wouldn't be possible. Plus, she seemed to know how the game would go. That was the proof that she was also a reincarnated person. As the heroine to her villainess, it was only natural that she would be wary of her, and it appears she had every intention of continuing to pursue Prince Felix. That means that she would keep interrupting them like she did today at lunch. She was advancing upon him at breakneck speed, and Ophelia felt like she needed to start giving her future some serious thought. She couldn't lose against her. Even though she was a villainess, she still had the right to obtain happiness. She returned to her room and Karen welcomed her. She asked for her bed and then she would serve her some tea in a bit. Ophelia asked if she was busy with something. She thought she would be back soon, so she was preparing her bath. Karen asked how the entrance ceremony was, and she said predictably exhausting. She was launched into a hard mode more difficult than she ever imagined. But she couldn't say this to Karen because she wouldn't understand her. Karen served her some tea and snacks and said she had worked hard. Ophelia didn't expect her to serve her some desserts at this hour. She asked if this was right. She said they could make an exception just for today. She said she knew how hard she had worked in preparation for her entry into the academy and towards becoming a worthy consort to the crown prince. She was sure the entrance ceremony must have been an eventful affair, so she was hoping to help melt her stress away upon her return. She said she would fill the bathtub with rose petals and give her a good message while she relaxed inside. Ophelia asked if that would be a trouble for her, but she said it was fine. She stated that nothing brought her greater happiness than seeing her dearest lady well and at ease. Karen was always there for Ophelia as a gentle, constant presence. She was grateful to her. She decided to unwind and let herself be pampered by her. Meanwhile, the heroine was at the flower beds. The next day, they were on their first day of magic lessons, so the teacher wanted all of them to showcase their abilities. In the world of Frisia, people live and breathe magic, and they have a natural affinity for different elements. There are 7 types of magic, with most people being aligned with the 4 classical elements of fire, water, earth, and wind. It was rare indeed for a light magic user to appear. In the heroine's case, she was even able to tap into holy magic once she became a shrine maiden of Frisia, and the elemental type diametrically opposed to light magic was none other than Ophelia's magic. The teacher asked students to step forward one at a time and let their magic flow. Prince Felix thanked the teacher for having him. He looked so cool, even though he was in magic class robes. The teacher told him to begin whenever he was ready. Felix showed his fire magic and everyone clapped for his spectacular display of fire magic. Ophelia complimented Felix, saying the way he was able to freely shape and manipulate the fire was mesmerizing. Felix thanked her and said that her private tutor said he still has a long way to go, but he was thrilled to receive her compliments. Next up was Ophelia. Since her element was water, the teacher asked her to demonstrate with a cup. Ophelia's poor performance must be an eyesore. She filled the empty cup, but the teacher said she might want to work a little harder on that. She really did her best to fill up the cup, but her ability to wield water magic was lacking. If you manage to gain mastery over magic, you will be able to wield offensive magic and create defensive barriers. It seemed like that was completely beyond her. Felix whispered to Ophelia that he liked her water magic. Ophelia thanked him. He was kind, but she could never reveal the truth that her real magic attribute was that of dark magic. If the heroine was bathed in light, then it follows that the villainess was shrouded in darkness. Humans with an affinity for dark magic were said to be able to communicate with the villainous butterflies of the moonless night. It was viewed as taboo, so those who do possess this attribute would be better off concealing it. Then again, there were practically no dark magic users in existence, so it was unlikely that there was any truth to the rumors to begin with. Ophelia just wanted to live a peaceful life. She may have been born with such powers, but she had no intention of using them. She was distracted from her thoughts by a big light coming from Alicia. The teacher was so impressed to be able to witness her light magic firsthand. Everyone was amazed by Alicia. The teacher mentioned that the light magic was said to be particularly effective against the butterflies of the moonless night, so she was their rising star of hope. Alicia promised to work hard for the sake of this kingdom with a big smile on her face. Everyone agreed that she was like a goddess, and she was the honor student for sure. She was already considered the country's beacon of hope. After school, Ophelia decided to brush up on her magic skills. She wanted to assist Prince Felix as best she could in her capacity as a water mage. Also, she was hung up on what the teacher said in front of the whole class. She decided to do her best and started practicing, but Lord Alvin came and said that if she needed any help, he would gladly lend a hand. Alvin was one of the captured targets and the third son of a count. He uses earth magic and excels at a combat style that incorporates both offensive swordplay and defensive magic. He was a shameless playboy, so he had quite a bad reputation. He said he was glad he decided to swing by on his way home. He assumed she needed a private tutor. Ophelia knew he had good intentions, but he seemed way too amused by this. But there was only so much she could do on her own, and she wanted to build good relationships with the main characters. She decided to take him up on his offer. He asked what she was planning to do today. She said it was embarrassing to admit, but her magic abilities were dismal, so her main focus was on reviewing basic concepts and preparing for the lesson. Alvin suggested going back to the basics and asked her to get a sense of how much water she could summon with her magic. He brought a cup for her. He grabbed her hand and said she would have to bear with him. He positioned himself behind her and told her to focus all her magic on her hands to manifest water. She said she would give it a shot. Alvin smiled at her. He was a good teacher, so she assumed he must be used to this. But he was so close to her, which made her figure out why girls had fallen head over heels for him. He said her hand was getting warm and she was doing great. He even put his hands on her hand to channel his magic to her. This was going far smoother than usual. Suddenly, Prince Felix's voice was heard calling for Ophelia. Panicked, she turned and looked at Felix's serious face. Felix stood right in the middle of them. Alvin explained that he wasn't trying to hit on her fiancé, and he was just offering some guidance on how to use her magic. Felix said he knew, and he was being petty. Felix told Ophelia that he would help her with her practice and asked if that would be all right. Ophelia said of course, and explained that she would hate to take up his time when he was busy. Felix told her not to be silly because he would be more than happy to. He apologized to Alvin for scaring him, but he said it was okay. Come to think of it, there were lots of CGS of him winking even in the game. Felix asked Ophelia if they should begin while offering his hand. She held it and said she would be in his care. She felt a little sorry for Lord Alvin, but she was glad that she could enjoy some time alone with Prince Felix. She wished this moment would last forever. After they finished practicing, they didn't notice how late it was. She thanked Felix for staying back to teach her until this hour. She knew he was busy, yet she lost track of the time. He told her that he wanted to, so she didn't need to worry about it. More importantly, he stated that they must be careful of the butterflies of the moonless night tonight. In Frisia, there were terrible creatures known as the butterflies of the moonless night. They had the appearance of fairies with ebony hair and charcoal eyes. However, should one come into contact with a shimmery mist, it would eat away at one's heart and twist one's mind. Essentially, they were just like the common monsters seen in games, appearing every so often to attack humans and wreak havoc. If it were just one or two of them, they weren't too much of a threat, but when they congregate, they become a force to be reckoned with, a menace that could easily decimate an entire village. The heroine and the main characters would be the ones to vanquish them and save the world. The heroine uses her powers as the Shrine Maiden of Frisia in the final boss fight and emerges victorious. When she first watched that sequence, it was so spectacular that she got goosebumps. She realized what she was doing and stopped treating it all with such levity. The butterflies of the moonless night were a real existence in this world. They were prone to appear on cloudy nights like this one, when the moon stars were shrouded in fog. Moreover, this was a year when the power of darkness was at its peak, a phenomenon that happens once every 1,000 years. There would be an infinite number of butterflies of the moonless night. But all of that was information from the game, so even if he were to warn the people around her, they wouldn't take her seriously. Having reincarnated into this world, she was the only one with this knowledge, along with the heroine. She was blessed with holy powers, whereas Ophelia was hopelessly inept at magic. In that case, she should come up with strategies to strengthen national security. They were facing a crisis, yet she could only contribute in such a roundabout way, so she was frustrated. Felix noticed something was off with her and apologized for upsetting her with the talk of the butterflies of the moonless night. Ophelia comforted him that she was fine, and it goes without saying that they had to remain vigilant. Felix said related reports had been increasing lately. They were lagging not just in villages and towns, but also in the royal capital and the nobles district now. There was even a chance they might show up here on school grounds. Ophelia seemed more upset, so he apologized for frightening her. He told her that they had bolstered defenses and deployed more mercenary troops for the people's protection and hers as well. Ophelia was caught off guard after he told her that. Her heart almost skipped a beat. Once again, she realized that no matter how long they had been together, she would never get used to it. While trying to calm herself, she noticed that there was a dark mist following them. Felix noticed that too and told Ophelia not to leave his side. And with that, they encountered the butterflies of the moonless night. When Ophelia was sick, Felix brought her the same flowers every day when he was visiting her. The maids told him that she would appreciate receiving such beautiful flowers. Ophelia opened her door and welcomed him. He asked if she was recuperating from her cold, and she said she was. He said she appeared quite unwell last time, so he was worried. He gave her the flowers, and she seemed just as happy as the last time he brought them. She said he had been coming to see her every day without fail, so she prepared a little something for him as thanks. She made her lemon jelly. He asked how she knew they were his favorite, and she responded that she was fond of them too. She glanced at him as he tasted and hoped it suited his tastes. He said it was delicious, and she was glad he liked it. She decided to help herself with some too. Felix had always found her adorable. They were the same age, but she was already so elegant and refined. He couldn't believe they were going to be married in the future. Ophelia noticed him staring at her and giggled. She then asked if he would mind terribly if she watched him as he finished eating it. He would be in heaven actually, but he said it was kind of embarrassing. He was frustrated that he was acting like a maiden, and as a gentleman he should be the one looking after her. He tried to restore his honor, but when Ophelia invited him to her room, he was quite surprised. He asked if she was sure, and she said he was special. Now it was his chance to be the gentleman, so he stood up and offered his hand. Ophelia held his hand and they started walking, but Felix was so nervous that he almost fell. He apologized and was sure she hated him now, but she said she was a little nervous. Seeing her nervous, just like himself, he was a bit relieved. As they entered her room, he noticed that Ophelia had decorated her room with the flowers he had given her. She said that whenever she looked at the freesias he gave her, she felt calm and at ease. It was almost as if he were right by her side. Felix was so touched that his face became red. She gasped and said she must have made him uncomfortable, saying that out of the blue. He said he was glad to see that she decorated the whole place with them and thanked her. She said she was the one who should be thanking him. Felix couldn't forget her face even after leaving her place. He looked at her window when he was outside and decided that even when they were all grown up, even when they were both ancient and saddled with grandkids, he was never going to stop offering her flowers, because he was sure she would love that. And even when they were teenagers, Felix still felt embarrassed around her because she was so adorable. He was afraid that she would catch on to it, but she was way too cute for him. He wondered if he was doing a better job of looking after her now. Back to the forest, the butterflies of the moonless night were rushing towards them. Ophelia could identify parts of them, though she was probably the only one who could. She confirmed that people with an affinity for dark magic were really able to communicate with the butterflies of the moonless night. As they attacked them, Felix used his fire magic to defend them. He told Ophelia that he was going to protect her. Ophelia said okay, but her voice was trembling. Felix used flame sword magic and defeated them with one single but strong move. Ophelia was shocked by how he vanquished them with a single blow. Felix was glad that she wasn't hurt. He noticed that she was scared, so he held her hand and said she was safe now. Ophelia thanked him and said she was shocked, but since he was with her, she was sure he would keep her safe from harm. Blushing, Felix said he was going to continue to do just that and asked her to stay by her side. Both of them blushed like crazy. Their heartbeat was so fast that they were scared the other one would hear it. Ophelia had no idea that trusting someone with her life and them jumping in to protect her would make her heart flutter. The next day, Alicia was on the job. She asked Felix to teach her something about the assignment, then asked Klaus to go to the library together, and then complimented Alvin for being the best at sports. Ophelia noticed how she was being aggressive lately. It might be just her imagination, but it felt like she was following the capture target's every move, just waiting to sink her claws into them. Ophelia had dozed off thinking about that, so she didn't notice that the class was over, and Felix was calling for her. He said it was time for their next class. She thanked him for reminding her and noticed that they were the only ones left. She apologized and couldn't believe she was sped out and kept him waiting. Panicked, she started clattering to find her music textbook. Felix chuckled and told her that they still had time, so there was no need to rush. His patience while waiting for her, the loving smile warming his eyes, and the fact that he never fails to escort her. Those little things not evident in the game sure melt her heart. In the next scene, Ophelia noticed Lord Liam with Alicia. She could recognize them even just by seeing them from behind. She wondered if she had decided to pursue him instead. It would be great if that were the case. As they were walking, Liam noticed her and they made eye contact. Ophelia immediately turned her head. She didn't want to believe that Liam would look at her because he was the utterly indifferent type. Plus, he was not interested in her in the slightest. She convinced herself that it must have been her imagination, but when she glanced at him again, she saw that he was still looking at her. He was supposed to be cold and impassive, but he was staring at Ophelia, and this made her nervous. Felix noticed her and then saw Liam and Alicia. He thought they were acquainted and decided to call out to her because she would be late for class. Ophelia did not expect him to wave at Alicia and call for her. He told her that they had better get going or they would be late for class. Alicia said she completely lost track of time. If it were up to her, she would have just ignored her, but Prince Felix wasn't going to just let her be once he noticed, given his upright character. But that was one of the many things she liked about him. Alicia walked towards him and thanked him for coming to get her. He said it was okay because they happened to be passing by. Also, he told Liam that the break was about to end, and he might want to head back to class as well. Liam agreed and excused himself, but before he walked away, he glanced at Ophelia one last time. With that, they started walking to the magic class. She said there was going to be a test on their singing abilities. She said having to sing in front of everyone was so nerve-wracking and asked for Ophelia's opinion. She smiled and agreed, but Ophelia knew exactly why she looked at her like that. Every time she showed up, it felt like peaceful days were a distant dream. Alicia talked like that because she knew Ophelia was bad at singing. Ophelia wondered if Alicia was already fully convinced that she was her enemy and was all for stirring things up, which reminded her back then, it seemed like Lord Liam was watching over her the whole time. She wondered about the reason behind that. A party was held annually at Fields Academy to celebrate the new year. There, a hymn would be dedicated to the goddess of Frisia, praying for her blessings. The two who would perform that sacred song were none other than the heroine and the captured target whose affections she had won. It was an event to showcase their relationship, thereby gaining approval and admiration from their peers. With that, Alicia and Felix sang their songs together and everyone clapped for them. If all goes according to the script, Lady Alicia is bound to be selected as a representative. If Ophelia could carry a tune, then she would stand a chance, but she was pretty awful at singing. After finishing their songs, Felix returned to his place. Ophelia complimented me on how lovely that was, and mentioned that it had been a long time since she heard him sing. He thanked her and said it was a little embarrassing, but he was glad she liked it. Alicia also complimented her that he was a splendid singer and said she was beside herself with excitement just thinking about singing together at the party. She said she had never been to a party before, so attending as a student representative made her nervous. He said it would be an honor if they were indeed chosen. Alicia turned to Ophelia and asked if she was aiming for the position. Ophelia was shocked. She said she was the young lady of a ducal family, and Alicia heard that a beautiful singing voice draws praise at social gatherings, with many young ladies taking singing lessons. She assumed that she must be a phenomenal singer even though she knew Ophelia was terrible. Ophelia wanted to ignore her but didn't want to come off as condescending, and would rather maintain cordial relations where possible. So she started to brainstorm what to say. But before she could respond, Felix surprised both of them and said he liked Ophelia's singing voice. Ophelia's face was all red and she thanked him. She figured that he said that to help her out of a tight spot. Even so, his words filled her with happiness. Whenever he complimented her, she eventually learns to appreciate even those parts of herself. He added that he could listen to her sing forever. Heroine Alicia seemed pissed off by their relationship. A few days later, a notice was put up announcing the chosen representatives, and before she knew it, 1 month had flown by. It was Lord Alvin yesterday and Lord Liam the day before. Lady Alicia was approaching them more aggressively than ever. After the music class incident, she came back in full force. Even the other students noticed Alicia being with a different guy every day. They shamed her for doing that and assumed it must be her commoner upbringing. Ophelia looked at the Frisias and noticed flowers were blooming in all 4 of their colors. With the appearance of the butterflies of the moonless night, everything should be going according to the game's plot. Every time the butterflies were defeated, the captured target's affections for her would automatically rise. Ophelia started to feel very anxious and afraid. When she woke up and sat at the table to have breakfast, Karen noticed her face. She wanted to talk but said it wasn't her place to say it. Ophelia told her to speak freely. She said that she had been looking rather down recently and she could lend her a listening ear. Ophelia smiled and explained that she was just a little stressed out because of school. Karen suggested visiting the library for a change of pace. The library had a vast collection of books, so it would be a great place to unwind and relax for a book lover like her. Ophelia had been so focused on work that she forgot they had a library. Seeing Karen so eager to help her, she decided to go to the library. She followed the path behind the school building and saw the fountain right in front of the library. As she entered, she was amazed by how massive it was. It was peaceful, quiet, and secluded from prying eyes. Karen was right. This was the perfect place to take a break. She started looking at a book about two childhood friends who grew up together in a small town, falling in love with each other and dealing with all the incidents that occur in the town hand in hand. She decided to find somewhere to sit first before she started reading. She thought that it would be less crowded inside and accidentally saw Klaus and Alicia. She completely forgot that this was Klaus's favorite spot, and Alicia was right beside him, sleeping. She decided to pretend she didn't see them, but it was too late. Klaus greeted Ophelia and expressed his surprise. Ophelia smiled politely and greeted him back. She then noticed the book on his table, and it was the book she had been dying to get her hands on. She wanted to read it, but he probably needed it for his studies, so she decided to come back another time. She couldn't wait to borrow the book and wasn't good at hiding her excitement. Klaus figured that she was after this book and gave it to her, saying he had already finished it. She said she had been searching for that book for a very long time, so she lost her composure. But she was glad to have finally found it. Klaus was surprised that she wanted to read it that badly. It was a rare book, but it was all about the technical aspects of water safety, so it was hardly an interesting read. She said the Lerulac territory had an abundance of water, so that topic was of particular interest to her, and all nobles shared the same desire to make their territories prosper. He agreed and said he was just a little surprised since it seemed like she was biting off more than she could chew. Ophelia noticed Alicia was still sleeping, so Klaus said she once good with books. She kept coming over, no matter how many times he told her he didn't wish to be disturbed. She didn't lose heart despite being repeatedly rebuffed. Ophelia lost her focus for a moment while flipping through the pages of the book, and while she was doing that, Klaus said he had been hearing some ridiculous stories, and it seemed they were all just rumors. Ophelia didn't really hear him and apologized for not listening. He said it wasn't important and asked her to read it here. He said he found her interesting to talk to. Ophelia didn't expect him to say that. She said her maid was waiting for her and thanked him for the invitation. She never thought he would ask her to join him, because based on the game, he should have just shooed her away for disrupting his study time. Also, he mumbled something while she was absorbed in her book. She decided to think about that later because there was something she wanted to check on before heading back to the dormitory. She went to the Frisia garden and noticed that there were 5 of each color. Getting into a relationship with all 4 men was a privilege only afforded to the Shrine Maiden of Frisia, so this meant that Alicia was on the reverse harem route. And in the reverse harem end, the fate that awaited the villainess was execution. Before Ophelia reincarnated into the game, she once got the max favorability for all capture targets achievement. She might actually reach the reverse harem ending. She couldn't believe she got through the hardest route without looking at spoilers or a walkthrough. As the game started, she realized that in this route, Ophelia dies. Ophelia, after having her fiancé stolen from her, eventually snapped. She calls upon her affinity for dark magic to summon a horde of butterflies of the moonless night and attacks not just the school, but the entire country. The heroine and her allies were able to stop her, and as the mastermind behind it all, Ophelia was executed for her crimes. Ophelia had absolutely no intention of controlling the butterflies, nor does she intend to use them for her own ends. But she was able to comprehend the things they wanted to say. If their encounter with the butterflies wasn't an accident, if it was the game-swaying reality, she might die. And Lady Alicia knew this. Yet she wasn't satisfied with only taking Prince Felix from her. She wanted to take up her life as well. She began to feel the darkness within her and realized that this was what the original Ophelia had felt, but she stopped herself because she would never do anything to hurt Prince Felix. As she was trying to calm down, Alicia's voice was heard. She went outside and said she felt a dangerous presence coming from there, and it must be a butterfly of the moonless night. She pointed in a certain direction and told someone to follow her. Ophelia was hiding behind the tree and didn't notice any butterflies on the moonless night. It seemed that they were appearing more frequently. She then noticed that the person next to Alicia was Prince Felix. That means they must be in the middle of an event, one where defeating an enemy raises affection. Alicia told Felix to leave that to her and used her holy light to kill the butterfly. Prince Felix thanked her for her assistance because most students here weren't capable of fighting. Klaus barged in and asked if everyone was all right. He was surprised to see Prince Felix. He heard Alicia say she felt something was off and got worried. He looked at the stain on the floor and asked if Alicia had defeated it. She said there was only one, so she was able to handle it. She ran into Prince Felix on the way here, so she had him accompany her. Though running head first wasn't advisable, the problem had been dealt with, so it all turned out well in the end. But still, Klaus was amazed by Alicia's power. He said she could get any job she wanted with a skill like that. Alicia said she wasn't interested in fighting and the like, but that didn't mean she would let the butterflies of the moonless night run rampant. Klaus suggested becoming a member of the shrine or a civil servant to the royal family. She said she had a different dream for the future. Ophelia was interested because she thought she would want to either be a civil servant or work at the shrine for sure. Both were respectable occupations that served the nation, so she wondered what she would say next. Alicia said she wanted to be the happiest bride in the world. By bride, Ophelia was sure she meant getting married to royalty or nobility. While it was true that being a happy bride was every girl's dream, not just anyone could marry into the royal family. One must be elegant and refined, have received a good education, and most importantly, hold a deep love for the country and its purpose. His father once told her that as the prince's future consort, she was expected to love him. However, she needed to develop a love for the country and the people she would serve as well. She thought it might be the result of her upbringing, but this world that she once saw as just a backdrop to a game had become something she cherished, something she wanted to protect with her life. But she wasn't sure if they could tell the same for Alicia. If she were to become part of the royal family, Ophelia wondered if she would be able to handle the position. Suddenly, Ophelia started to feel overwhelmed by the memories that eluded her before. It was the time when she was waiting for the green light, and she received something from the Frisia development team. They thanked her for her constant support of Frisia. They said they received numerous messages requesting aid for Ophelia, and in response to this, the Frisia development team has decided to release some hidden files in today's update. She was shocked to read this email. Upon inputting the hidden commands, a special window would appear. From there, they told her to proceed to give sweets to the gardener's boy and get to know him. Once a certain affection level had been attained, the flower bed would change, and the Frisias would turn black. From then on, the player would be able to play as Ophelia and begin a romance with the other characters. However, it was said that this message had only been sent to those of her who requested a happy ending for Ophelia. An official announcement was going to be made to the rest of the public about a month from now. In other words, Ophelia would become the protagonist. She was so hyped about this news that she didn't notice the truck that was coming and was hit by it. When Ophelia opened her eyes, she could remember her last moments in her previous life and she couldn't hold back her tears. All she wanted was a happy life with Prince Felix. In the next scene, Prince Felix asked Ophelia to have lunch in the courtyard together. She agreed and stood out. She looked at Alicia and saw her speaking with a teacher, which meant that they were going to be alone. It had been a while since they last spent some quality time together, so Ophelia was excited. However, one of the students informed Prince Felix that the teacher was calling for you to talk about the student representatives. Felix thanked him for passing on the message and turned to Ophelia to apologize, but she said it was okay. It was unfortunate, but still couldn't be helped because after all, Prince Felix was a busy man. She had to eat alone in the backyard, and that's why she didn't want to eat a lot. Now that she thought about it, she had had people around her supporting her ever since she got reincarnated. And as for heroine, she wanted to get along with her, regardless of which route she chose. But that didn't mean she would just annul her engagement with Prince Felix. Though she couldn't help but wonder how things would turn out, she still couldn't believe her sheer audacity. She lost her appetite and couldn't finish her meal. And to make matters worse, Lady Alicia had decided on the reverse harem ending, and that route leads to death for the villainess. After all, no one cared about the life of some villainous noble lady. Prince Felix came and apologized for not being able to have lunch with her. She told him not to worry about it and said she understood how busy he was. He thanked her, but still wanted to make it up to her somehow. He asked if she would like to go somewhere together. Ophelia was excited about this date idea and said she would love to. While they were talking, Alicia came and thanked Felix for lunch. She said food always tasted 1,000,000 times better in her company. She talked about how there were many choices on the menu. Ophelia assumed they had some things to discuss after their meeting with the teacher. Two girls came and said they were quite surprised to see Prince Felix dining in the cafeteria, and they thought he would be lunching with Lady Ophelia, like he usually did. Felix explained that they usually have lunch together, but that wasn't possible today. Suddenly, Alicia took out some dessert and said Prince Felix had lunch with her out of the goodness of his heart, and even said that she must be pretty special to have been admitted to this school as a scholarship student. She added that they were most definitely getting intimately acquainted with each other. The girls were shocked but acted cool with her. She said it was a shame that they ran out of time, and that's why she grabbed them some dessert to eat together. As she was about to give them to the prince, she suddenly fell. Ophelia was shocked and asked if she was all right, but Alicia told her that she was so mean and accused her of tripping her like that. Ophelia had no idea that while she was saying all, they had had lunch together. Ophelia kindly smiled and said she didn't do anything and she must have tripped over the leg of the desk. But Alicia didn't back off and told her not to play innocent. The girls looked at each other and told Alicia to stop. When the teacher arrived, she saw the desserts on the floor and asked what had happened. She said she was going to call the custodians and told everyone to head back to their seats. The girls calmly returned to their seats. This whole situation was infuriating for Ophelia. Prince Felix asked if she was all right and gave her a napkin to wipe herself. She said she seemed to have come out of it unscathed. He was so kind to Ophelia. Alicia's goal was to become queen by going down the reverse harem route, so she should be trying to form connections with the nobles whose support the royal family would require in the future. Yet far from befriending her peers, she seemed to be going out of her way to make enemies out of them. It might be fine if this were really just a video game, but this was reality. Once the Villainess Route was activated, the player would be able to play as Ophelia and be in a romance with the other characters. She wasn't too keen on stealing the heroine's role, but even villainesses have the right to obtain happiness. Ever since she came to terms with being reincarnated, she had been doing her best at paving the way for a happy future with Prince Felix. She, too, could strive for happiness. The Villainess's route was activated when the player offered treats to the young gardener and befriended him. She didn't recall there being any character that was a young boy when she played the game, so she wondered if this was connected in some way to the old man in the stills. She saw a little boy in the garden and greeted her. He asked how he could help her, and she introduced herself. She said she was interested in freesias planted in the garden behind the school, so she wanted to speak to the gardener. The boy greeted her, and his name was Io. He was a gardener's apprentice. It was Ophelia's first time meeting a new character, so she couldn't help but get excited. Io explained that the one who planted the flower bed of freesias was his grandfather, but he hurt his back, so now he was in charge of tending to them. However, it seemed like someone else had been watering them for him. It was amazing that he was able to take over all of his grandfather's responsibilities on his own. She asked if she was bothering him, and he said not at all. He said he was just checking in on the rose bush he planted, and it was a part of his daily routine. Ophelia complimented on how beautiful they were, and said she had never seen red roses with such a deep color. She assumed he must have put his heart into growing them. Io's reaction to what she said was strange, so she asked if she had said something wrong. He explained that he had never spoken to a noble before, and she was the first person who had ever listened to his ramblings like this. So he was a bit surprised. Io had been working tirelessly every day on this huge campus without his grandfather to help him or anyone to talk to, so Ophelia assumed he would feel very lonely. Ophelia asked if he was hungry. She said she had some snacks with her right now, and she would like to hear more about the flowers, so she asked her to have a little tea party while they chatted. Io was so excited and asked if she was sure. They prepared everything, and Io loved how the snacks tasted. She was glad he liked it and said this coma meal was harvested from her family's territory. She was actually doing this because the game told her to give sweets to the gardener's boy and get to know him. She felt like she was using him, but she couldn't back down now. She had decided to live a happy life after all. Ophelia wanted to talk about the freesias behind the school and asked what color freesias were going to grow there. She just hoped that she didn't come off all passive-aggressive. She added that it was okay if he didn't know. He said it was okay if he told her. Io explained that the freesias in that area were special. According to Io, they were grown from special seeds that Io's grandfather had taken great pains to procure. The color of the flower would change depending on how it's grown, and occasionally a flower that was originally red would suddenly change into another color. People believed that those seeds had some kind of sacred powers. He never knew such flowers existed and asked her if she was interested in a specific color. She said she was hoping to see black freesias. It sounded like something right out of a fairy tale. Ophelia agreed and thanked Io for his help. But Io told her that if it was black flowers she wanted, there were other types besides freesias, like roses. Ophelia was only interested in black freesias, but it wasn't every day she got to see black roses, so she said she would love to see them. Io was glad to show her. He guided her to where the black roses were and showed her. She was amazed by how regal the shade of black they were. She asked if that building was the training hall, and he confirmed it. She said someone was in the middle of training, so it was very lively. Black roses weren't as popular with the ladies, so they cultivated them in a secluded, unpopulated area. Ophelia said they were still beautiful, and it was a waste. Io said she could have some to decorate her room with if she would like. She said she would love to take some with her, but asked if he was sure. Io said he was the one who grew those flowers, but no one ever uses them. Also, he would be really happy if she took some. Io was so cute, so Ophelia said she would take him up on his offer and take some back to the dorm with her. He said he would get them ready right away. As Io was picking the best ones for her, she heard a voice she did not want to hear. It was Alicia cheering for Alvin. Ophelia wanted to get far away from here because it was so crowded with girls cheering for Alvin. Alvin's swordsmanship skills were amazing. He was from a family of knights, so Ophelia was quite amazed. She wondered if this was after-class training, and it seemed a bit similar to club activities from her previous life. When they were done, Alvin turned to the girls to thank them. Io apologized for making her wait and gave her the roses. Alicia saw her holding the black roses and asked with a fake worried face if someone had passed away. People immediately thought someone had died, but Ophelia smiled and told them that she had gotten them prepared to decorate her dorm room with it. She said she had jumped to conclusions, but still reminded her that black symbolizes misfortune and calamity, and that was ominous. Ophelia started to get annoyed, but fortunately, Alvin came and said black was beautiful too, because women were beautiful, no matter the color. Ophelia was surprised that he was backing her up. Alvin winked at her and kissed her hand while saying the black roses truly brought out her beauty because she shone so bright. The roses even seemed dull in comparison. Alicia was shocked and jealous, but she tried to act cool while saying how her heart beats faster whenever she hears him speak. The teacher saw the commotion for Alvin and told everyone to leave the place instantly. As they walked off, Ophelia noticed that Alvin was dragging his foot, and he went straight back to the training ground. Io came and she apologized to him for leaving him behind. He said he was fine and those ladies were a force of nature. He said he saw Alvin taking walks in the garden quite often. Ophelia had no idea that Alvin was fond of flowers. She wondered if they talked, they would get along. Ophelia asked for a first aid kit from Io. Alvin went back to the training hall and his feet started to burn and hurt him really badly. As someone from a family of knights, he was taught that he must never show weakness. Even now, he was still stubbornly keeping up this habit of always putting on a strong front. He was about to go back to the training, but Ophelia came. He was surprised to see her and asked if she wanted to see him. Ophelia nodded and stated that she wanted to help him properly. He said he only told the truth and she didn't need to worry. He couldn't help but notice that she was a courteous person. Ophelia said she would treat his injury. She knew his left foot hurt and asked if he had been to the infirmary or applied healing magic to it. Surprised, Alvin said he hadn't done anything. He was shocked that she noticed it. Ophelia started bandaging his wrist while telling him not to ignore an injury. Alvin watched her elegant fingers touching his leg and realized how pretty she was. She was always with Prince Felix, so he never really had the chance to get to know her. When she finished, Alvin thanked her. Ophelia told him to apply healing magic. Alvin asked how she could tell that he was injured, and she said he looked like he was dragging his foot. Since she was done treating him, she wanted to take her leave now. Alvin was surprised, so she was confused as to why. He didn't want her to take this the wrong way, but he was told that she tended to flirt around a lot. Ophelia was shocked that there was a rumor about her, but he said he knew it was just a rumor now. Ophelia thanked him and hoped his injury would heal soon. After she left, Alvin decided to head back and noticed that his foot didn't hurt anymore. In the next scene, Ophelia left her dormitory and Prince Felix was waiting for her. They greeted each other and started walking to school. Ophelia couldn't help but notice that everyone was looking at them and thought it was pretty normal because, after all, Felix was a prince. She asked if he had been waiting and he responded that he had just come. The other day, Felix told her that he wanted to pick her up from the dormitory, but he had to wait near the gate since boys were banned. Ophelia was happy that he made time for them to be together. Felix asked Ophelia if she had encountered butterflies on a dark night since then. She said she hadn't seen them around. He was relieved. Ophelia thanked him for his concern. Prince Felix looked tired nowadays. She knew the reason why he was tired. Felix was busy killing butterflies in the night with Alicia. Originally, Ophelia didn't know about it. She understood as she knew the contents of the game. Felix didn't want Ophelia to worry about it. Ophelia told him to be careful because she didn't know what might happen. She wanted to worry as much as she could and was so impatient. Felix said he woke up in the middle of the night yesterday and secretly went on a walk. He just took a little peek and went back. So when he was walking near the academy, the moonlight was beautiful, and he saw a garden by chance. It was as if it were a world of painting. He thought that he wanted to see it with Ophelia. Ophelia was happy to hear that, but he said they couldn't in the middle of the night. Worried, she asked if she didn't want her to see the moonlight. She asked if it was the butterflies. Ophelia panicked, thinking he was mad at her, but he said that wasn't the case. What he was saying was that the danger was not the butterflies. It was him. And he said he would protect her from it and she could trust him with that. He then turned to her and said it was up to him to decide. They both started blushing. Ophelia was shocked and couldn't believe he said that. Felix told her that she needed to realize the place she was loved in. He was nonstop embarrassed Ophelia. Felix giggled and said they could go on a walk with him at night tomorrow. Their conversation was interrupted by Alicia. She had been getting on her nerves so much that Ophelia had to remind herself to calm down. She asked if something had happened, and Alicia got closer to her, saying she had heard about what happened yesterday. Ophelia was confused and thought she was talking about the black roses, but they were together then. Alicia giggled and said it was about Alvin. She heard they were alone at the training ground yesterday and teased Ophelia. Ophelia couldn't believe she was doing this in front of Felix on purpose. It seemed like he didn't want anyone to know about his injury, so he left by himself. The only time they were alone was when the other students had left the academy. She had to explain to Felix before he misunderstood her, but she was undecided about revealing Alvin's injury. Felix smiled at her and told her not to make such a face because he would listen to whatever she wanted to say. Ophelia stated that she was just thinking of him for complimenting the roses she had. At that time, only Alvin was at the training ground. She said she got black roses from Io, an apprentice gardener, and they looked really pretty. Felix asked if they were in the academy's garden and she confirmed it. He asked if she could show them to him. He wanted to see them with her and she said okay. Felix was glad and said he had been given some work to do for today and asked to visit them tomorrow. Ophelia was relieved that he didn't misunderstand the situation. Alicia, on the other hand, was pissed that things didn't work out the way she wanted. The next day after school, Felix tapped on Ophelia's desk and asked if they should leave. He offered his hand to her and they started walking out of the classroom. He said they haven't had the chance to go out together recently and it had been a while since they went on a date. Ophelia is so excited. Alicia watched them leave the classroom holding hands. Ophelia guided Felix to the back rose flower bed. She said it was right next to the training ground. She saw Io and introduced him to Felix. Io was shocked to see Felix. Felix acknowledged his hard work and thanked him for taking good care of it. Ophelia told Io that she came to see the black roses with Felix. He said he had just finished working on it and they could take their time and have a look. Felix asked if those were the ones she was talking about. He said they were lovely. Ophelia commented on how waste it was to avoid it just because the color was black. For some reason, Felix couldn't get rid of the image. It didn't change the fact that it was a beautiful flower. Ophelia was glad that Felix didn't have the black because it was the villain's color. Felix said black roses suit her well and the atmosphere looked different than usual. After hearing Felix say it had been a while since they went on a date, Ophelia couldn't help but feel conscious. She started to get really excited because of the atmosphere. Felix said that if she were this cute, it would have been good if he had given her the black roses as well. He was glad it was Ophelia who was next to him. He said he got a lot of work from the teachers. He said that Alicia and more people have reported black butterflies appearing, and it had been a while since he got time for himself. These days, the timing is really bad. He was about to talk about Alicia and the others in the expenditure team. Liam, Alvin, and Klaus. Everyone was busy. Felix had been doing his duties as a prince while studying. She wasn't a member of the expenditure team, so all she could do was watch from the sidelines. Ophelia said she would make some delicious herbal tea, and if he would like, they could have some tea together next time. It feels restless when there are black butterflies. Felix was glad to hear that from Ophelia. This was all she could do. Even if it only reduces his anxiety a little bit, it would be good. Felix said he liked the herbal teas she made, and that time Ophelia would be next to him. Felix suddenly grabbed Ophelia and approached her himself. He hugged her with one arm and said she was always determined and stunning. Her honest part was also cute. Ophelia felt like she was already on the villainous route. It was already like this at this stage, so she wondered what would happen when she got into the route. She started wondering why Felix's favorability was higher than Alicia's, and if his favorability would rise with her too. She was so excited that she had to back off a little bit because her heart couldn't handle it. She said Io was replanting it over here and asked if he would like to see it. They approached him and stared at him. Io asked if he could help them. Ophelia said they were interested to see how he replanted flowers. Io asked if she would like to plant too. He then apologized to them because he forgot that he was talking about nobles. Felix told him not to worry. He had only seen them and never planted flowers himself. It would be a good experience. Ophelia agreed and asked Io if he could teach them. Io was more than happy to help. He tried to find the new gloves, but Felix said he would lend him his spare gloves. The next day, Ophelia woke up and it was her day off from the academy. She remembered yesterday when they had a tea party after replanting the flowers, and she felt so warm. Her door was knocked on and it was Karen, saying she received an invitation for a tea party from Felix. Ophelia hadn't heard anything about this from Felix, so she was a bit confused. Karen said he was a busy person, and he might have forgotten to tell her about it. Even though he was busy, he would usually tell her his plans in advance. But when Ophelia saw the invitation, she was shocked. Karen thought she was still drowsy, so she put the invitation on the table and said they should prepare her for the day. Ophelia was surprised because she had seen that letter before. It was a conviction event. It was a key item. Ophelia thought this was too early because it had only been 3 months since they entered the academy. 10 flowers were blooming at the same time. The situation right now is that the favorability of all the target characters is 100%. In the real world, unlike the game, there were no restrictions on how you act. That might speed things up, but Ophelia was too late to notice. It had been a while since they received a letter from Felix. Karen noticed that Ophelia looked pale, so she suggested taking some time off. She said it was fine, so Karen decided to prepare an energetic breakfast and bring it right away. When she left, Ophelia looked at the letter. It was Felix's wax seal for sure, so she confirmed that it was real. The letter said he wanted to invite her to a tea party that was being held tomorrow. The game ends after graduation from their 3rd year. She thought that was already decided, but the time of reality and the game were different. In reality, she wondered if she could capture them this fast. The Frisia in front of them proved that this was the reality. The time they spent together was less. The timing was bad, so they passed by each other more often. During that time, she assumed he spent more time with Alicia than he did with her. She wondered if that's how his favorability rose so much. Even so, she believed the words that were directed at her and that smile. Moreover, she didn't think he was going to annul the engagement at such short notice. Rather than conviction, Ophelia was more afraid of annulment of the engagement. In a few hours, she was going to encounter the things that she had been trying to avoid. Io saw her in the garden and asked what was wrong because she looked a little down. She said she was fine. He asked if she wanted to see Black Frisia. She was confused because he said they were fairy tales before. He said that the black roses suited her well, and he thought that Black Frisia would definitely look good on her. He was trying to find out if they really existed. She thought its existence was that of an illusion. He said they were really rare and didn't know if he could get them. Ophelia smiled at him and thanked him for that. Io said she complimented the black roses he raised, and because of her, he was able to eat sweet snacks for the first time, and he was so happy. She was even kind to someone ordinary like him at this academy, and he wanted to return the favor to her. Ophelia felt bad that he was feeling guilty about it. Even if it was a secret command, Io was not a program. He was a sweet boy living in this world. Ophelia asked if he would accompany her for some tea. He was fine with that if she was sure. Ophelia took out lots and lots of sweets for him, and she was shocked. She told him to put jam and whipped cream on scones and have some red tea. Io was so happy to be able to eat those. Come to think of it, long back the head chef taught Ophelia how to make lemon jelly. Felix liked it just like Io right now, and this started to make her wonder if her fate was being decided from that time itself. While cleaning up, Io was still complimenting how superb her sweets were. Rather than waiting alone for tomorrow, she felt relieved because of Io being here. After the event, she was sentenced to death and she wanted to make a promise. She told Io to have tea again together and she would bring his favorite snacks. Io excitedly thanked her, but then rushed towards her while screaming. There was a butterfly of the moonless night right in front of them. He shielded himself in front of Ophelia. Ophelia was confused because it wasn't night, and this shouldn't even be possible until the second half of the game. She wondered if they were in the second half because of the arrival of the invitation. She asked Io if he could use magic, but unfortunately he couldn't. Even if they run away, it would catch up to them. Also, since today was a holiday, there weren't many people around, so they were wrapped. Worried, Ophelia tried to think of something she could do. There was only one possible way of getting saved. Users of the dark attribute were said to be able to communicate with the butterflies of the moonless night. She started talking with the butterfly, asking it to let them go. She said they had no intention of harming it, and if there was anything it desired, she could make it come true. She told Io to go hide, and she had to listen to her. The butterfly seemed to understand her. Ophelia was expecting her to want her blood, soul, or anything dark, but all she wanted were sugary sweet flowers. She said she would gladly prepare it. The butterfly said she wanted to eat it until she was stuffed, and was also surprised that she could understand her words. She told her to give her flowers from here. The flowers here were good, though she wasn't sure they would satisfy her. She doubted even the flowers inside the palace would be good enough. The butterfly started to get mad, but then exploded in the air. It was Liam who saved them. She asked if she was all right. She said she was and thanked him. She said she had feared for the worst since neither she nor Io could fight. Io came asking if she was okay. She said she was, thanks to Liam. Io panicked and thanked Liam. Liam stated that defeating the butterflies of the moonless night was a part of the priest's duty, so there was no need to thank him. Ophelia told him that, however that may be, he still saved them. He then told her to show her gratitude towards the church. Ophelia noticed that he was trying to hide his embarrassment and decided to go easy on him. Liam stated that if the butterflies of the moonless night were appearing at this time, then there could still be more, so he decided to escort her to the girls' dormitory. Ophelia was a bit uneasy. She knew he was offering to escort her for her own safety, but still it felt weird hearing him offer to help, especially when the conviction event was happening soon. Liam asked Ophelia if she was disappointed that he wasn't Prince Felix. She kindly thanked him for personally escorting her as well as Io to his quarters. But when she looked at Io, she saw him looking at the remains of the butterfly of the moonless night. He told them to go ahead, and he would leave after he cleaned up this place. Ophelia opposed this idea and said it was too dangerous to be alone. They would help him clean it up right away and leave it there together. Liam seemed annoyed but still helped him clean up. This was the last day of Ophelia's freedom, and she thought it wasn't a bad way to spend it. With that, the day of the conviction event arrived, and Ophelia picked up a black dress. Karen asked if she was truly going to go along with this dress. She asked if that was a bad choice. Karen had a brainstorm and decided that she was the most beautiful woman in the world, even in a black dress. Ophelia thanked her and left the dormitory. There was no one waiting for her at the gate. Normally Felix would have waited for her. As expected, he didn't come. He had no choice but to go alone. When she arrived, Klaus, Prince Felix, Liam, Alvin, and Alicia had been waiting for her arrival. With this, everyone was present. In the game, Prince Felix asked Ophelia why she would do such a terrible thing, and as her fiancé, he was ashamed of her. After saying that, he announces that his engagement with Ophelia was over. Seeing her fiancé breaking up with her, Ophelia couldn't stop herself and asked if he was going to marry that commoner instead of her, the daughter of a duke. She said that kind of thing shouldn't even be allowed. Klaus told her that he had already received permission from His Majesty. Hearing that, Ophelia couldn't stand straight and didn't want to believe that she could steal Felix from her. Ophelia wanted to destroy her smiling face, but now, she didn't want to hurt anyone, and didn't choose destruction. She was the daughter of the Duke of Leolac's house, and she wouldn't accept condemnation. Back to the present, they asked her to have a seat. The air felt tense, and this was not a good atmosphere for a tea party. Lord Liam didn't even look at her face, even though they were able to talk facing each other. Even Lord Alvin, who usually lightens the mood, was quiet. Lord Klaus looked like he was waiting for something to happen. She could see the flower bed from here. Felix thanked everyone for coming to this party. He said he called them all here because there was something they needed to hear. He stated that it was about his engagement with Ophelia, and there it was. Those were the lines from the condemnation event. However, Felix had a pained expression that wasn't shown in the game. It was like he was trying to hold back. Seeing him like that, Klaus wanted to explain the circumstances. Felix allowed him. Klaus stated that Lady Alicia had been blessed with powers from the goddess Frisia, and he told Ophelia that she would be asked to step down as Prince Felix's fiancée, and instead, Felix would marry Lady Alicia, the Shrine Maiden. Normally, Ophelia told him not to be silly and that she wouldn't allow such nonsense. But she didn't want Felix to see her like that. Felix mentioned what happened at the school entrance ceremony, and since then, various problems have occurred. Ophelia calmly stated that she had never done anything to harm Lady Alicia. Felix asked if she had any proof, but she didn't. Felix stated that he had spent many years with Ophelia, and he was inclined to believe that she would never do such a thing. But the words of Lady Alicia, who was the Shrine Maiden of the goddess Frisia, were more believable. The words of the Shrine Maiden were stronger than his fiancé's. Now that the butterflies of the moonless night were increasing, the Shrine Maiden's existence could not be ignored. Prince Felix made his decision as the crown prince of this country. But unlike what he was saying, his expression speaks volumes about their relationship, and that alone reassured Ophelia. Ophelia said if he wanted to break off the engagement, then he needed to go through the formal paperwork. Suddenly, Liam interrupted and mentioned something that happened yesterday. He said he also heard about the problems Lady Alicia raised, but he never thought that the daughter of a duke would do such terrible things. To treat Alicia, who was the Shrine Maiden, like that, even as a priest, was not something that could be forgiven. Alicia stared, trembling and crying. She thanked them for being with her and said she would run away from everything if they weren't here for her. Alvin comforted her, and Ophelia watched everyone looking after her. Because she cried, because she was the Shrine Maiden, they would believe in her lies. She started to get mad, but then noticed Felix again. Alicia wanted Felix to move on to the main announcement. He was about to do that, but he stopped mid-sentence and had to gulp first. Suddenly, Io came with a bucket of flowers and said he was busy. He apologized and said he knew they were in the middle of a tea party, but he would finish this soon and wouldn't get in their way. When Alicia saw him going for the freesias that she planted, she started scolding him. She asked why he was replanting them and told him to put them back. Ophelia looked at the flowers he brought, and they were black freesias. Io told Alicia that he made a promise that he would show Lady Ophelia those black freesias. She used to come to this flower bed often, so he decided to replant it here. He said that the previous flowers from there would be in another flower bed. Ophelia asked where he got them from. He said they finally bloomed this morning, so he rushed over and was glad she saw it first. He said he was going to replant them and take their time to appreciate them. Ophelia thanked Io for this favor, but Alicia was not happy. She started saying that if they weren't in this flower bed, then there was no point. She was right. This flower bed reflected the affection level of the capture target. Now that the flowers planted for the heroine were gone, all that was left were the flowers for the villainess. While wondering what was happening, Prince Felix hugged Ophelia from behind. She was shocked. He apologized for trying to say something cruel to her and said he didn't know why he would say something like that. Even he couldn't believe it. He said he always had Ophelia beside him, but now that he had spent more time with Alicia, he felt like he wasn't in his own body. Ophelia told him to raise his head and said she didn't care about that. In the first place, even though he was a capture target, she got involved with him, and it looked like he was resisting the force of the game. If it worked, she would have been condemned, but it wasn't enough. Ophelia grabbed his face and said he was ruining his good looks. Felix said she was crying too. She didn't even notice it until he pointed it out. Felix kissed her teary eyes and said how salty they were. If that were a game, it would end right there. The villainous Ophelia living happily ever after with the crown prince. Unfortunately, this was the reality. Alicia started screaming around saying Prince Felix was supposed to marry her. She said she had never heard of a black Frisia and asked the other guys if they would marry her. But they were all on Lady Ophelia's side. She didn't accept that this could be true because she was the Shrine Maiden of Frisia. Klaus stated that they prioritized the role of serving the crown prince over his engagement to the shrine maiden. Alicia didn't want this, and as the shrine maiden of Frisia, she had no choice but to pledge to serve it for the rest of her life. She opened her neck to show them the proof, but it wasn't there. The proof of the shrine maiden, according to legend, she must have the mark of a flower blooming on her chest, but it wasn't there. Klaus had never read anything in literature about the shrine maiden's mark disappearing. In other words, Lady Alicia was pretending to be the shrine maiden. Alicia still insisted that there was proof on her chest. Klaus told her that she could claim it all she wanted, but it wasn't true, and her excuses were useless, and she had just proved otherwise. The fact was, she wasn't the shrine maiden of Frisia. Liam asked if she intended to make an enemy of the temple by pretending to be the shrine maiden. She tried to convince at least one person, but even Alvin didn't believe her. She turned to Ophelia and told her that she was just a villainess and wasn't supposed to be on stage. Ophelia had had enough of herself and replied that even if she wasn't on stage, she was not free to do as she pleased. Also, she was treating this like a strategy game. Her behavior was not appropriate to rule as a queen. It was okay to take care of herself, but she had seen her repeatedly disrespect the people she was supposed to be involved with in the suture. She would like to say more about the reverse harem route, but more importantly, if she were going to become royalty and an aristocrat, she should be more aware of that. Ophelia just hoped that she would get the message. Alicia stared, grinning, and said she was wondering what she was going to say. She then started saying that this world was just a game. She said this was a game and she was the heroine. So it was only natural that she deserved to be with all the characters she loved and she had to have fun. Ophelia said she was sure there were people hurt by her words, but Alicia kept saying that they were all just characters from a game and didn't believe that she was hurt. Ophelia went mad and told her that it was only natural. Prince Felix and everyone were human beings and had feelings like her too. Alicia stopped and suddenly used her magic on Ophelia. They thought she was attacking her, so they protected Ophelia. But it was a butterfly of the moonless night. She said she was the heroine and she wouldn't do it to humans. But it didn't matter because even if she did get hit and die, she would come back to life. Ophelia asked what the hell she was talking about. She told her that she could defeat even stronger butterflies of the moonless night with Prince Felix and others, and it was a faster way to improve and earn affection. She was so proud to say that. That was the last straw for Ophelia, and she slapped her in the face. She couldn't believe she put Felix and the others in danger because of her own selfish reasons, and told her that this wasn't a game, it was real life. Alicia was shocked because she knew it was a game, but still her face was hurting. She collapsed and started crying her eyes out. Ophelia couldn't believe she really thought this was just a game and she got reincarnated into the game she played before. That's why she chose her death route so easily. Lady Alicia thought she was genuinely enjoying the game. Felix hugged Ophelia and asked Klaus to take care of Alicia's situation. After they confirmed the truth, Klaus said they would decide on her punishment, and until then, she would be placed under house arrest in the royal castle.